Most of us have taken an aspirin if we have a headache, and of course, recent evidence has shown taking a low dose of aspirin is known to reduce the risk for heart disease. Now, scientists say it may also reduce the risk for pancreatic cancer. Patients who had been taking aspirin for 1 to 3 years actually lowered the risk for pancreatic cancer by 48%. That's right, 48%. To talk more about this study is Newsmax Deputy Health Editor Nick Tate. Nick, it's good to have you with us as always.
Good to be with you, Lynn.
When I hear that there is a drug out there as simple as aspirin that could help reduce fatalities with pancreatic cancer, I'm stunned. Why is it that aspirin could have this impact?
Well, it's really very exciting, particularly for pancreatic cancer, which is really one of the bad ones. You know, pancreatic cancer strikes without warning, and for most people, by the time they realize they have it, it's too late to do anything about it. 8 in 10 people who are diagnosed usually die within the first year, and 94% die within 5 years. So having a cancer prevention method as simple and as cheap as aspirin really is very good news for those folks. Now, you know, aspirin isn't for everyone. It does cause some problems, gastric distress, some bleeding for some folks, and if you're taking a blood thinner, it can cause more harm than good. But for those people who are at risk of pancreatic cancer, who to this point have really not had much in the way of prevention opportunities and options, this is really a terrific one.
How do we know if, in fact, we're at risk for pancreatic cancer?
Well, it's a funny thing. There really are not a lot of early warning signs. And that, as I suggested, I mean, pancreatic cancer is, we might describe it as kind of one of the ninjas of the cancer world, in that it really does strike often without any warning signs in folks who might otherwise be healthy. Usually a family history, there is some genetic component that is involved, and sometimes symptoms that are kind of unpredictable, like depression, may signal that there's something going on with your pancreas. But there really isn't a lot of good evidence to suggest that if you take certain steps, there are things that can prevent it, and if you're very vigilant, that you should watch for these signs. That's why a prevention method like aspirin could be a real boon to folks who are potentially at risk.
Has it actually been used in individuals who have already been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer?
In this case, what the Yale researchers did is they looked at folks who did not have pancreatic cancer, and they gave them aspirin and compared them to folks who didn't get aspirin. And what they found is that the folks that received aspirin did not develop pancreatic cancer. So the evidence suggests that, in fact, it will prevent it from developing in the first place. Now, most of the people who benefited greatly were the ones who were taking a daily low-dose baby aspirin for 10 years or more. But even in people who were only taking it for 3 years, there was a reduction of about 40% in the risk of developing pancreatic cancer.
Typically, when someone does hear that diagnosis, that they do have pancreatic cancer, they are told to prepare for the worst. Do you see this as a development that might actually change those statistics and change them somehow to the positive side?
Well, the more that we learn about the role of inflammation in all kinds of diseases, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, the more we learn that keeping inflammation in the body low is really important to not only preventing disease from developing in the first place, but slowing its progression. And certainly aspirin is one of those things that has that kind of moderating effect. So this may open doors that we can't yet envision to not only prevention strategies, but identifying those people who are at risk, and also in terms of treatment for those who are diagnosed. We just don't know at this point in time.
It sounds like if your doctor gave you the okay, that we should all be taking a small dose of aspirin on a daily basis, because it's proving to ward off a lot of different things that could end up taking our lives.
Well, that in fact is the main point you made is a really good one. If your doctor gives you the okay, because there are of course some downsides for some people, but you know, people have been taking aspirin or forms of aspirin for millennia. The ancient Greeks used to take a form of it, a naturally occurring form of aspirin that was in the bark of willow trees, to reduce fever and to treat pain. And now we know through scientific analysis that a chemical compound in that bark is a very close chemical cousin of aspirin. So we know it's well tolerated by a lot of folks, and there are some doctors who believe that if you're over 40 and you're already doing the good things that you should do for your health, eating right, exercising, not smoking, lowering your stress levels, well, maybe you should look at aspirin as the next thing to add to your list to boost your health. But you do need to talk with your doctor first and make sure you're not at risk.
That's what we'll do. Good advice as always. We'll take a quick break and we'll talk more right after this.